So let me invite Professor Arie Dubnov, Professor Roberto Mazza, and Professor Giancarlo Anello is with us, but in an online way, because at the moment is participating, it's another Paramount meeting at about civilization dialogue in Spain.
Oh, good morning. Thank you, Adele Valeria. I'm very sorry that I am not in presence in my university. It's a quite uncommon situation to speak from another point, another university, my own university. However, I'm very glad to participate to introduce this session of this morning today. I was involved in the project of Adele Valeria that is going to be presented later. As a tutor or a coordinator, it was a very big pleasure for me to participate. Basically, for 3 reasons. And also considering I am not a historian, because the topic and the project basically is a project about the contemporary history, and I am not a contemporary historian. I am a scholar of law and religion, but I was very happy to participate to discuss with the Valeria about this research for 3 reasons mainly. The first one is that the project was very interdisciplinary from the beginning. And I think that interdisciplinary is a big challenge. It's very nice to do when you do research, and sometimes it can be difficult to do that, because you must be aware about the core principles, the core methodological principle of other subjects, other topics. And so sometimes it's difficult. You have to study new things, new approaches, also debating about that with scholars of other fields. But the point is that in the long run, this kind of approach is very enriching, because you basically know and study new topics, but also you can learn different methodologies and put in practice if you cooperate with other scholars in other fields of studies. So this is an advice that I also can give you to the researchers that now are involved in their project, also to challenge the fields, the borders of their project, and trying to take this interdisciplinarity seriously. It is tough to do, but it's enriching in the end. The second point was that I was interested in the interpretative nature of the event that Adele Valeria is focusing in her research. That is the fall of the city of Jerusalem, because I was interested in the same topic at that time from another point of view. I was studying the life and the work of an important Egyptian jurist, Abdallah Razzaq al-Sanuri was the name of this jurist, that wrote a thesis about the fall of the big collapse of the Ottoman Empire and the big collapse of the caliphate that was the most important religious institution in the Muslim world. And basically, the same event, the same situation, the fall of this city, Jerusalem, and the Ottoman Empire was a big disaster for the Muslim communities, but a positive event for other communities that were minorities at the time in the same region, in the same city, and Adele Valeria was dealing with that, also finding the documents, the letters, and investigating in the lives of some of the person working in the context. So it was interesting for me to discover the other side of the medal of a topic that I was investigating in my past. The third element is that sometimes this kind of historical works are connected with the present. Jerusalem is a holy city, is a city that is important for three monotheistic religions, and for many years it was the setting for international projects, how to create an international city, and a city open to all the religions, how to avoid the conflicts of religions in this special city. And it was a topic that was interesting for international legal scholars or scholars like me. And so a part of the investigation of Adele Valeria is focusing how in that specific moment this kind of interreligious dialogue was somehow present in the lives of leaders of different religions working and living there, specific in a capital moment in the past. So reviving their hopes, reviving their projects is a way to support also today an important idea, important value that is about how to make peace by religion and not make conflict. So this historical investigation can support somehow a topic a problem that today is very open and is difficult to find solutions, but to investigate the past and to promote further knowledge about these kind of processes can be the only way to create something new, to enable us to have some new actions in order to achieve the big goal of dialogue or to make peace during the conflicts. So I stop here because I know that the day is very long and there are more important guests and more very relevant dissertations. So thank you for having me, and have good work, and we will see in Parma very soon in presence with all the colleagues and all the students. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Professor Anello, for your presence. And now I think we can start with this project. Let just me share with you the slide. Okay, we are at the acronym JER-DEL, where JER is the abbreviation of Jerusalem and DEL instead of delivered. And it evokes the masterpiece Jerusalem delivered by Torquato Tasso, and that I intentionally adopted as a strategical hint to draw the reader's attention to Jerusalem, although in a historical context totally different from that of 1581. The historical context in question today concerns what happened in Jerusalem after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, which relied on religion as its foundation. And I will try to explain this project by using 3 pillars. The first, what is the project about? The second pillar, how will the objectives be achieved? And then the third pillar, why does this research project matter? And by starting with the first pillar, what is the project about? The overall objective of JER-DEL is to furnish a new historical investigation of the theological reactions involving religious actors, both individuals and institutions, of the 2 religion minorities in Jerusalem. They are Christian and Jewish, to the conquest of Jerusalem in 1917 and the subsequent collapse of the Ottoman Empire 1919-1920 within a transnational and intercultural perspective, with a periodization never investigated. From these overall objectives, We have other objectives, other specific research interests. The first is a specific objectives that examines the religious actors scenario in Jerusalem in relation to its conquest in 1917. And it will identify distinguished theologians, clerics, bishops, rabbis, and missionaries in pre-mandate Palestine, Europe, and USA, in order to evaluate later the theological aspects of exchanges within the clergy, both Christian and Jewish, and the attitudes adopted in the transition period from Ottomans to British rule. The second, instead, objective is to individuate the theological writings of the distinguished theologians identified and to reassemble them. For instance, which Protestant congregations and when wrote to which missionary organizations or rabbis to maintain or not to maintain the status quo after the transition to British rule. And then we have the third specific objective that initiates a historiographical problem. Jodel moves the interpretation of the historical facts from the traditional and prevailing role of the historical, political, military, and diplomatic approach to Palestine after 1917 to a new one. So, what is it? Jodel investigates the theological positions of the distinguished religious actors following the collapse and interprets the theological debate among them under the new lens of interreligious perspectives. And hence the fourth objective that develops a thematic database to sort the social networks of personal relationships and interreligious exchanges between religious actors. So, how will Jodel be conducted? To solve this methodological question, I asked myself, what does it mean to be a historian today? What actions do I need to take to be a historian and advance my research hypothesis? In part, not only does it require, by saying in a vulgar way, to be able to pick up, to steal something specific from any discipline and to apply it. In a more academical way, it signifies to be able to espouse more disciplines together. This is the golden rule of the integration of methods and disciplines to pursue research objectives in a project. For instance, reconstruction of facts requires main historiography. For example, the studies of Arie Dubnow, of Roberto Mazza, of Buonerbi, Pieraccini, and so on, so on. The consultation of online database on notable case studies, analyzing archival sources, comparing and verifying them to order them, and then as an archivist, managing, organizing, storing, and assessing these documental materials, digital and not, to fix and before by inventorying and enhancing the same documentary sources. More in detail, to systematize, to fix the historiographical problem, I'm stealing from a Jewish and Christian history, from a history of international relations, law of religions. Why? Because in order to furnish a new interpretative approach, categories as religious liberty, religious affairs, mission to Jews, Zionism, are essential to reassemble the theological debate of the religious actors in the face of the siege of Jerusalem. Yet, I'm identifying and contextualizing the meaning of codified expressions and recurrent notions as a socio-historical linguistic, by means of the analysis of their letters, sermons, speech, that pertains to religious studies along with interreligious international relationships, involving always religious figures to map the concepts of the lexicon underlying the themes of religious affairs and religious liberty. So, the third pillar. Why does this research project matter? For at least 3 reasons, very quickly. While the last decades have seen abundant research on the religious institutions in the face of the siege of Jerusalem and the fall of the Ottoman Empire, a combined analysis of the theological, whether Christian and Jewish, reactions to the conquest of Jerusalem in 1917 and the following collapse of the Ottoman Empire has not yet been attempted. Second reason, the historiography of the siege of Jerusalem and the collapse of the Ottoman Empire is dominated by political, military, and diplomatic history that treats the conquest of Jerusalem as a forerunner period to the Arab-Israel conflict. Nevertheless, they sideline the theological reaction, the theological approach. Additionally, the studies on Zionism concerned with the fall of the Ottoman Empire are dominated by political and diplomatic approaches. The same is for the studies addressing the question of holy places. And yet, the works on the British Protestant missionary organizations adopt an exclusively political approach referring to the political future of the British Empire. As such, Protestant missionary activities are seen as a cultural device of the British imperial project. And in the end, the third reason, while the stimulating research of Inger Knaug, for example, explored the role of Anglican missionary women, to the present day, women's theological responses are overlooked. So this is in a nutshell, and then what is important is the conclusion of this project. As a squirrel that unceasingly finds equilibrium and assembles what it has, I'm trying to furnish a systematic studies including the theological reactions of all branches of Christianity to the conquest of Jerusalem and the collapse of the Ottoman Empire that does not explicitly focus on nationalistic perspectives. Always as a squirrel in response to the second reason that digs into the field, I'm finding a new approach in the field to the implications of the ruins of the Ottoman Empire, in addition to that traditional political, military, and diplomatic one, by elaborating a study on the theological reactions that consider how the collapse forged the theological ideas of Judaism and Christianity and their contemporary legacies. As a third point, always as a squirrel that tests new steps by jumping from a branch to another one, I'm testing new ways, enlarging the limited knowledge of the involvement of women in the history of the theological reactions to the Jerusalem, the siege of Jerusalem, as religious actors who expressed their ideas and pursued religious efforts from the ruins of the Ottoman Empire beyond the cases of Christian missionaries of the Jerusalem Girls' College. By accounting for the role of women, we were protagonists in interreligious relationships concerning the conquest of Jerusalem. This project, Gerdel, will give information about gender differences and taboos, contributing to reduce imbalances in religious communities. In the end, I'm finding collaboration with other scholars. For this reason, today, Professor Ari Dubnov, Professor Roberto Mazza are here with us. By learning from them, to set the ground for a thorough reflection in defining Jerusalem as an international zone belonging to Christians, Jews, and Muslims, and addressing the theological reactions after the end of the Ottoman Empire. By opening archives in this month, particularly those that are not well known or private, I'm entering the personal lives of individuals who are not just diplomats, politicians, or institutional religious figures. Before me, a new window on how normal people is opening. These are people who, in an unconscious way, without precise guidance, in a vacuum of power, practiced religious liberty towards religious others. In their normal daily lives, in schools, in markets, and pilgrimages, they exercise interreligious forms of respecting religious differences. This interreligious dialogue at a grassroots level indirectly influenced religious and civil policies of religious institutional actors. In this way, I'm contemplating, literally, in addition to traditional figures, diplomats, state secretaries, bishops, lesser-known figures, especially women, swallowed up by history, who deserve to be brought back to light and who can even be considered the forerunners of the interreligious dialogue as we are aware of it now, already in 1920. Thank you for your attention.